know, the biggest problem I think that we're facing right now in our world is that people are so stuck in this cycle of trying to please other people. And even when you say you're not, in so many ways you really are. When it comes to fashion and the way you're dressing and like the style of things that you do and places you go and stuff to that nature, you know, there's people who get stuck into this club world and they don't even really want to be in the club, but they're still going. And there's all those things in the big cycle, and everybody's scenario is different, but what I get so stuck in, and I even have to go through it with myself and have these conversations, is as a kid, you know exactly what you wanted. You know exactly where you wanted to be as a kid. You know, it's the easiest time because you don't have any outside influences, any outside sources. So what happens between being a kid and a few years later that all of a sudden now what other people say, what other people think, and what other people want you to do and what want you to wear and so on matters to you? Where is this transition of people mattering versus not mattering, and how do we go back to the basics of what we actually wanted to do and wanted to be and wanted to represent with ourselves, you know what I mean? And so if you're going through this time where you're wondering like, oh, I don't know how to make myself happy, and people are asking you, they're like, oh, well, what's wrong? And you're like, I don't know. You do know. You know exactly what is wrong with you. And if you're not admitting it to yourself, we'll figure it out. Sit with yourself in a quiet space and talk about it, because at the end of the day, the problem is not other people. It's you listening to those other people. There will always be outside voices, and there's always going to be people that are telling us like to do a certain thing and to do a certain way, but at the end of the day, like, you have to know what you want and be comfortable with that. And so if it's dressing a certain way, if you want to be very simplistic versus wanting to be out there, if you want to be out there versus being simplistic, like whatever it is, it has to make you happy. And not only happy when you're in that environment, but when you go back to your house, you need to be happy within your own space. Because that's another thing. Some people, they do certain things that make them really happy when they're in that environment, whether, let's say, you know, it's the club scene or whatever, and then when they get home in their solitude and in their quiet space, they're very unhappy, and the reason is because they're not doing it for themselves, so it's not fulfilling them. So if whatever you're doing is not fulfilling you, stop doing it. I mean, that's as black and white as I can put it. So I really want you guys to step back and really circle back and really say, well, what is it that I want, and where do I want to be, and how do I get there, and what steps do I need to take? And only you can provide yourself with those answers. And if you're waiting on somebody to give you this miraculous answer, it doesn't exist. You have to really just want whatever it is that you want, have an action plan, you know, really say, okay, this is what I want. And there's a lot of techniques out there, you know, there's visualization and there's meditation and all the Asians, but at the end of the day, you gotta want it, you gotta plan it, you gotta work towards it. So, but your happiness at your core is going to establish whether you're going to have an easier time or whether you're going to really kill yourself over it. Because if you're not happy at your core, then whatever you're working towards, you already have those barriers. Because when you're not happy, you already have negativity surrounding your work. So if I'm working my ass off, but I'm not happy, at the exterior of me is not happy. So you have to be happy first. So that's the message today. Find how to be happy. Because at the end of the day, no matter how hard you're working, no matter how great you are at what you do, if you are not happy, it's not going to work. So find your happy. And when you do that, then start applying your work towards other things. Start applying your talent and your passion. You know what I mean? And it should come naturally. Because when you're happy and you add that passion, then all of a sudden everything starts flowing and everything starts working. And that's the way life is supposed to be. You know, they said if you're doing a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It's the same thing for anything in our life. You should not have to be unhappy within a relationship. You should not be unhappy within your home, within your environment, within your situation. Whatever it is, you can control that, and you can be the one to remove yourself from anything that you're not happy with. So that's today's message. Find your happy.
I've seen the world.
So we're talking about find your happy. And what is happy for me? Happy for me is a space like this. When I moved to Miami, this was the bridge that I drove over coming into Miami. And what I love always since day one was every time I drove over this bridge, I remember like that is the moment that I was like, I'm here. I live in Miami Beach, you know? And I remember feeling like home and feeling like something like I would never take it for granted. And anytime I look to that bridge, drive over it, drive back over it, I always smile and I say, you know what? I live in an amazing place. For me, it was an achievement. It was something that I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy to live here. So for me, this space right here, this zone right here is a lot to do with my happy. So I wanted to share that with you guys.